Okay, so this is my personal project report, and the first thing I wanted to talk about my project was my goal. So my goal was to learn about editing using Premiere Pro, which is a program from a beginner's level to an advanced level for my age to help me in the future to express my communication and expression skills. I will express this by making a 3 to 5 minute sports video and a travel video edited by me using my own footage. So, what was challenging by this was that it was a new program. It's a very professional program that many people in Hollywood use and professional people use. It's a much bigger project that I've done before. So I've done like smaller projects like making a family movie, but not something like this for myself. So my next question is, where did my idea come from for my personal project? And this is only from personal interest, as I love to do sports. I do it all the time. Like in the winter I do skiing, in the summer I do surfing. And I like making movies. So I've always had an interest for this, and that's why I want to do it for personal project, as it was fun and I thought that it would be a fun project. So my global context that I chose was personal and cultural expression. I've chosen this global context because it fits my project the most, because my project is supposed to be personal and not scientific, as I was about to choose scientific and technical innovation. But then I would have to look into more how things like the programs I used worked and what's behind the code. And I did not want to do that. I wanted to make a film that was personal to me and it connected with other people. So my prior learning has been to make PE films like the Mountain Film Festival and some performing arts videos. Other than that, I don't think I've made too many videos. I've made some for my family and some for media arts, which I did in A class, but other than that, I haven't done a lot. But I know a lot in iMovie, as that's what I've used most of the time. So starting this project, I've done one really interesting thing, and that has been to get involved in a film festival, which was in Kongsberg. I was in my group. It was me, Marlene, and Anne, who was going to make a movie in 48 hours. We got some crash courses 2 times, which didn't last over an hour each, and then we went and made our movie over the weekend, from editing and shooting. This gave me a really good idea of how to shoot a movie, how to edit a movie, like the thought behind it, thinking a bit more critically, and how people would think. I learned that you gotta work with people even if you don't like it. And I didn't necessarily like the idea for our movie, but I think that gave me a challenge. I think that it gave me a challenge because I needed to work with something I did not necessarily like. And I think that was for a really good advantage, as I still had to do a good job and do the best I could, but under harder circumstances, as it was harder to film than what I may have planned. You can also see my movie in the 48-hour film festival movie, in Extract 1. So school has been a big part of my interest and how I've developed it, as the design classes and the media art class that I had in A class has helped me further develop my ideas of filmmaking and editing. That's what has been helpful with this project, that it's given me an open sight of and an open mind of how I could do it, but also how I could not do it by thinking critically, which is very important when making a movie for people to like it. Skills that I have developed over the 48-hour film and some research is that I've gotten a lot more perspective of how to use lighting in a room or outside, how to start a scene, if you're going to introduce characters, the landscape, and if they're gonna have a conversation, how to set the cameras up, what angle to have the cameras to show how they feel. This is all things that I've skills that I've learned over the past few months of starting my project. Under my project, I used a high amount of online sources, but also a interview with a professional editor, and that's what I've been doing, with also the 48-hour challenge being one of my research sources. So for my interview, I decided to contact a person called Bjørn Borg from Norway that lives in Oslo, who works at Universal Studios Norway. Universal Studios are the ones that made Harry Potter, the films, but I was there as he's a professional editor. He was going to learn me some stuff, and we were going to talk about things he did and how to edit, basically. So he said that the more you do and the more you practice, even if it's just little, the better you get, and you get really fast. You don't need a degree to be a professional editor or videographer, and that there are many big productions that use many programs, like Premiere Pro. One of their famous, a bit younger for younger audiences, is Bakekrigen, so Bake War. It's 1.5 hours. Then they have introduction of character, right? And then how they they show off the characters. Then they start the process, and then there's the ending. So he says that there's always good to have a story, even if it's just a highlight reel. Always have a story in your videos to show a process. It does not have to be a big story. It doesn't have to be like a fantasy story. It just has to show progress. He also told me that I need to be creative. I need to try things that I'm usually not comfortable with, but that will challenge me. Like doing something that's harder, or a setting that's harder than you mostly would have done. But this will help express and challenge you to do better, and learn more. He also told me a lot about his editing process, as he said that I need to be very organized, have files for different scenes, for what moods, but what's most important if I'm making a sports video and travel video is that you need to pick the music first, if you're starting to learn, as it's very important to have a good music song, because that could really mess up how the audience views your video. It could be that they show off something really, really cool, like an action video, but with sad music. Then people think that there's a tragedy involved. But if there's high tempo, energetic music, they will think though it's an action movie, which is what I'm trying to do. He also told me that I need to be organized when I'm working with video, as it needs to be clear what I'm working with, so I don't mess up and I don't find something. So my timeline in the program needs to be clear of all messes. And if there's something you need later, you bring it in then, and not have everything there, so it looks tidy, basically, and that will help your workflow going faster. Based on the interview, I decided to be more tidy when editing and have a more of an overview when I'm editing, so nothing gets lost in the program, and that I have everything under control. So when I made my success criteria for my movie, I decided to make it personal, and also how I use techniques, how often, if I vary a lot, and like what types. That is basically what I did in my success criteria, and you can see this in extract 2, where I describe how many times a transition is done, how many times I vary, if I keep my time limit, and so on. So one of the things I did for research was to use YouTube and to look at videos for tutorials. I made many playlists that I've set together, which I could watch and see if that fitted what my video was going to include. And one of these was color grading. Color grading is when you change the color of a video, the contrast, the temperature, which is cold and warm, the tint, which is green and purple, the exposure, highlights, shadows, whites and blacks, which you can all manipulate when editing. You can see this all over my clips, as I've had a general color grading scheme, and then I've edited the clips separately to give them a better look. And you can also see this in extract 5, where you can see the YouTube video and my take on this. Another transition that I used, which I found most fun to learn, and it looked the best, it looked complex without it being that complex. It only took time to learn. And this was a thing called Luma Fade transition. This looks very complex, where it merges two clips together to transition into the next one. So if you have two clips, it transitions into the next one by transitioning the darks first, and then the whites, or the whites and then the blacks. I have an example on this on extract 7, where you can see the YouTube video as well, and my take on this, as I have several examples of this in my videos. This looks very good if it's made correctly, and if you understand how to use the transition and the tools that you are given to make this. Another thing that I researched, which I'm very proud of in my final product, is something called title fade away, where you can make a text fade away behind the object. You use this by making a mask and then dragging the mask where the object is hitting your text, and then everything outside the mask, like the text, disappears. You do this for every frame until your text is gone, and that's basically how you do it. I found this very useful for my introduction title, as it looks very good, and then you get a different sense of where the dimension title is, as it confuses you in a good way, I feel. You can see this in extract 8 with my take on this, as well as the YouTube video that taught me this. So this is my calendar that I use, so my plan. This was a rough plan of what I was going to do the different weeks. So I filmed from summer all the way to India, actually, but I did not end up using all my footage, as it was on over 144 videos that I've taken. And I would say that I did not use my plan very effectively, and I didn't use a lot of time writing down in my process journal, even though I did a lot of things, like filming, like doing the interview with Björn Borg, going on the 48-hour challenge. But after, I would say, 3 weeks after the autumn break, I became lazy, all the way up till after Christmas, where I started to pick it up again with the speed of how much I was going to do. And this is when I started to do my editing, as I always looked at videos and tutorials of how to do stuff, and I did that every week, and that was, I think, the most consistent thing I did. That was research, but I did not write it down a lot of times. I think the reason for this is that I just became lazy, and I thought that we had much more time, and I didn't think about it too much, as I found it fun. And then I found out that I had to write about it as well, and I was like, ugh, and I couldn't bother doing it. But the past couple, month, I have started to pick it up and done a lot more. So during my process, I bought a drone to get aerial views, like from the beach, while doing something in the water, that type of stuff. And I bought this thing called DJI Spark. It was supposed to go 2 kilometers away from the controller, but mine, at the maximum I've got it, was only at 200 meters or 240 meters. This was a big concern, as I could not film further away than I was, and it gave me limitations. As, for example, one time I was going to shoot an island that was maybe 500 meters away in Sweden, and then I could not do that because the range did not allow me to. So then I've sent a lot of mails back and forth with the company called DJI. They said that I tested everything, and they gave me more things to test, and I tested everything, but nothing worked. So then we got to the conclusion that I had to send it in for them to repair it and see what the problem was. But then we found out that we gotta pay for the shipping. And then we sent them a mail, but it was just a misunderstanding, as we paid the shipping and then they gave us the money back after we've shipped it. So that's what I did, but I did this after I was done filming, so that was a challenge for me. You can see this in extract number 10. As I knew what I was going to do for my project beforehand, I started filming in the summer all the way up till India, as I said, to get the most out of all the different seasons, and to get more sports into my filming, as well as cinematic filming. So I did this for a long time, even though I hadn't started my project. What was a big part of my project, I would say, even if it was not a crucial part. So I did not have a lot of challenges. The only challenge that I had was learning the program, which was very hard at the beginning because it looked so complicated, which now I know that it wasn't. And then the problems with my drone. Those were the only 2 challenges that I really had outside of making my movie. So from these experiences, I'm now able to fix problems in Premiere Pro, which is the program, edit better, edit faster, edit more efficiently, have things more clear, and have things more organized, and then manage better, like time efficiency, as I've learned with big projects that you gotta work underway and not at the last minute. So my project was results like my goal. I think that it made sense with my goal a lot, because it showed that I made a 3-minute video that included sports and travel, which I also used Premiere Pro to do. It reflects my understanding of the global context, because it shows my personal expression throughout this video, but also cultural expression, as we now live in a digital age, and I wanted to make a exciting and modern feel to my video, which I feel that I accomplished. I did a lot of changes in my videos or in my product, as I had a lot of scenes to choose from, but I went through like 4 different scenes for just one part of the video to see which one I liked the most. And then I also changed a transition, which was at 2 ski scenes from 50 seconds in my video to 60 seconds in my video. At the start it was a spinning transition, but then I made it into a zoom transition, which zooms into the next scene, basically. So evaluating my sources that I used is pretty easy, I think, as one of the sources was the 48-hour film project, where a guy from Scum, the director, came to talk to us, which is a very famous Norwegian TV show that was bought up by a company in the US, so they could make their version of it because it was that good. And so he's a very reliable source. The YouTube is a bit more questionable, but it works. So then it means that it's reliable, as the when I tried to do the same thing, it worked. And I looked at different examples with the same thing, like different videos, and it was the same thing. So I triple checked everything, like the transitions, and I tried it myself, so I know that is valid. And the Warner Bros. Björn Borg interview contact, he is very valid, as he has a really good job at it, as a very famous company. I've talked about the collaboration with Marlene and Anna and how it helped me earlier in the video. When I was considering the age group that my video was going to appeal to, I wanted it to be the same age as me, because we all have the same, or many of us have the same interests, like sports and traveling. I also wanted to make it a very modern movie that was that many people in my generation like, because we use Snapchat, we are very up to date with technology. So during this process, I had a friend who was interested in the same thing as I, whose name is Sander, and he helped me a lot with sharing ideas with me. If I had an idea, I told it to him so he can make it even better, so we could communicate and make it look even better. He helped me choose music, as I had a hard time finding one that I found that would fit without having to pay for the music. So sharing ideas with Sander made better results for me. So some pros of my film is that I feel that it's very well made. I feel that the transitions are very smooth, and that I use the best footage that I could use. But some cons are that it took longer than expected to learn, and that I had a hard time, like the learning curve was very slow at the start and heavy, but after that it got much easier. Possible improvements for next time could be that I use more diverse and different clips, as I now use a lot of kayaking, and I feel that I could use a bit more than a lot of kayaking, basically. I feel that this project has further improved my knowledge as how to edit, what to think when I'm editing, how to lay out a story, how to do transitions, how to use the program most importantly, and how it works. I feel that this is very important for future projects that I may have, and it will help me a lot with efficiency and how long time I use, as this was a test to see if I would like doing this in the future. If I was to do this project again, I would research more into hard techniques and how to lay up a story, as well as film techniques when I'm filming, as the problem with this was that I've filmed before I did my project.